Well, one thing that I really noticed a lot was the darkness.
On our program today, Ken Litke, a past president of the Homeowners Association of Tellico Village, will talk with Don and Pat Kegley. They discussed what it was like in those village pioneer days before there were designated neighborhoods, roads, golf courses, and many other amenities like the yacht club, the wellness center, and pickleball courts. The Kegleys have quite a story.
Hi, I'm Ken Litke, and I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Don and Pat Kegley. As owners of the first house built on a lake, you actually moved in that new home on March 7th, 1987. So let's talk a little bit about how this all came about. I know prior to moving here, you lived in Ohio. Can you share what brought you down to Tennessee?
Well, first of all, we needed to relocate our company. Got to Tennessee, that was it. That decision was made.
And tell us a little bit about your plant there in Von Orr.
Well, we were the second plant in there. Sea Ray was there. We made the decision based on the availability of employees here. The unemployment rate when we made the decision was 16.5%.
Well, choosing a Tellico Village, to live in Tellico Village at that time must have been a huge leap of faith.
Not really. I consider it to be a no-brainer. I spent all this time looking for a place.
And you must have had your choice of lots at the time.
I did.
I understand there weren't even roads at the time.
No, there wasn't. We had a pontoon boat. We were on the boat one day, and Pat was always wanting horses, and she got sold on a lot. There are a lot of horseback riders up there.
But how'd you feel about putting your house on that very pristine lot that you saw from the water?
I could not believe how beautiful it was. And I got up there and walked around on the mound, and I said, this is too beautiful for anybody to build on. It's too pristine. But if you were going to build on it, I wanted that lot.
Good choice.
So that's the one we got.
So once you picked your lot, how did the planning and construction go?
Well, it was very difficult for us. Nobody knew who was in charge.
We start to do anything back then, and you have somebody challenging it.
Well, you were the first geothermal.
We dug a well, but because we ran it through our furnace, a geothermal furnace, and this is before they had the loop systems, and we pumped the water out into the lake. They told me, you're going to have that tested twice a month, and it was going to be about $50 for each test.
Nothing could go into the lake,
Well,
even well water.
the guy who told me that almost went into the lake.
Well, I understand the roads weren't even paved back then.
Not at all.
Did that cause you any difficulties when you were constructing the house?
Only when we drove on them. Well, roads were really welcomed, as was electricity.
So, in addition, I know to the very few paved streets, I know some struggled at the very beginning with no sewer or water systems in their area. So that must have caused some issues as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that I really noticed a lot was the darkness. When we would come into what is now Tellico Village, there were no houses, there were no street lights, there were no businesses, no strip malls, nothing, and it was just solid black. It was kind of scary at times.
During this early period too, they were grading for the golf course, and so we had a big day once a month at least, maybe more, called Rock Day. And you got your pail and you went out and you picked up rocks where fairways were going to be.
Wow.
All our residents were happy to participate in that because we wanted this golf course to be built.
Now, I've used the term pioneer quite a bit, and we're displaying a picture right now of Pat on the connection sitting by her home being built.
Well, it's going to be my kitchen, eating Kentucky Fried Chicken, I believe.
Pat, it must have been really strange living out there basically with just a few people, no stores, and no restaurants.
Everybody's in the same boat, and everybody knew things had to be done, and they started forming groups and clubs, and we really helped start several of the things that are still there today.
Mm-hmm.
We were instrumental in helping start the community church. And one of my big loves was the library. And so it started as a paperback exchange on the fifth floor of the yacht club.
Well, you were there when the yacht club opened, right?
The yacht club itself, it was all open. There were no floors. It was all balconies around. We had some of our first church services up on the top floor,
And the upper floor is where the lending library started, right?
called the Kegley Children's Corner.
I understand, too, that there was a dress code at the beginning. The men had to wear a coat and tie.
Oh, good old days. That really didn't last too long.
So let's talk for a moment about the pioneers and the spirit of volunteering back then.
Once we started with our golf groups and different things that got us together, we became solid volunteers for anything that was needed. Our first mayor, Art Spurrier, he was the first unofficial mayor of Tellico Village.
You were in the Tellico Tappers, too. A lot of people talk about that.
You know, I'm surprised that the people that live here now have never heard of the Tellico Tappers. We used to perform in the yacht club, and especially on the 4th of July.
Well, I want to thank you again,
Thank you for having us.
Don and Pat, for coming today and sharing your experiences with us.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
This is a view of Don and Pat's former home as it appears today. Their home was part of the 2009 Women's Club Home Tour. The current owners, Jim and Sharon Smith, are doing some renovations this year, but the home will be featured again in the 2024 Home Tour, which is sponsored by the General Federation of Women's Clubs.